napakaraming nakinig at marami ring katanungan para magbigay ng liwanag at maklaro yung ibang bagay-bagay. Nais kong magbigay ng dalawang dokumento ngayon. Yung unang-una, yung timeline pa lamang. So, umpisahan na lang natin yung timeline. Mabilis lang to sana, pero mahaba-haba kasi nag-uumpisa to sa March 2019 nung nag-withdraw ang Pilipinas sa Rome Statute. Tapos, yung prosecutor requested authorization 24 May 2021. May deferral nung 2022 ng Hunyo. Pagkatapos, 12 September 2022, ang ating Pangulo ay nagsabi, ICC will only take action when the country is no longer functioning and has no judiciary. So, 26 January 2023, ang ICC nag-umpisa na naman ang investigasyon sa drug war. And then the appeals chamber rejected the suspension nung Marso. And then, July 5 ng 2023, ipinagtatanggol ni VP Sara yung confidential fund ng DepEd at ng OVP. Yung ICC Chamber delivered its judgment 18 July 2023. Pero inulit na naman ni Presidente Bongbong 24 November ng 2023 na simple lang ang isyung yan. Hindi naman siguro tama na ang tagalabas ang mag-iimbestiga dito sa atin. So yun ang nangyari, Tapos gusto natin maintindihan yung konteksto ng mga pangyayari. At nung 15 December 2023, andyan na yung sulat kay VP Sara na the jurisdiction of the ICC over the Republic of the Philippines after the effectivity of our withdrawal is very much in question. And I am certain that you and all of my cabinet will echo my views. Sabi rin niya, for the 100th time, I do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC in the Philippines. Noong 28 January 2024, kauna-unahang maisog rally at binanatan ni former President ang ating Pangulo Bongbong. Noong 29 January, kick-off rally ng Bagong Pilipinas, pero kasabay din ang candlelight prayer rally ni Presidente Duterte. 30 January 2024, eto na yung unang hearing ko sa PI, People's Initiative, February 2 sa Davao, 13 dito na naman February sa Senado. And 20 February, si Pangulo ay nagsabi, I don't approve or deny it, but the ICC haven't done anything illegal. Ito yung tinutukoy ni Secretary Boying na pagbabago. Once they do, we will do something about it, but we are an open country. 19-2024 June, VP resigns as DepEd Secretary. 20 July, maisog, rally liwasan. 16 August, first Quadcom in Bacolor, Pampanga. 22 September 2024, VP Sara says, hindi naman kasi kami talaga nag-uusap. Hindi kami magkaibigan unang-una. Ayun na. And then 12 October 2024, sabi ni PBBM, I don't know anymore. I'm a little dismayed to hear she doesn't think we are friends. 11 November 2024, nag-attend si former President Duterte ng 11th Quadcom hearing. 13 November 2024, E.S. Bersamin said local authorities would consider cooperating with the Interpol if the ICC seeks the intervention of the International Anti-Crime Body. 14 November 2024, nung nakaraang taon, ang sabi ng ating Pangulo, if that's the wish of Duterte, we will not block the ICC. We will not just cooperate. 28 November, first bicameral conference tungkol sa 2025 GAA. And the 2nd of December 2024, first formal impeachment case against VP Sara. 11 December, second bicam. 18 December, ang privilege speech ko at sumunod yung mga kaso. And 19 December, third impeachment complaint. 13 January 2025, itong taon na ito, INC Peace Rally in Manila. And 24 January, itong taon na to, Secretary of Justice Remulla said, the Marcos administration will sit down with the ICC and discuss certain areas of cooperation in the latter's investigation. He also said, cooperation with an international tribunal is permissible, noting that ICC representatives have already been going in and out of the country without us raising anything. So may admission po ron, and 28 January 2025, may mga declare the 2025 national budget unconstitutional. Nung 5 February nitong taong to, impeachment of VP Sara was approved in the House of Representatives. 10 February, the ICC prosecutor applied for an arrest warrant against former President Duterte. 22 February, People's Indignation Rally Mandaue, Cebu. 7 March, the warrant of arrest against the former president was issued as secret by the ICC chamber. 10 March, 2 PNP memos regarding the deployment of personnel and augmentation of PNP personnel to PRO 11. 11 March, the warrant of arrest was reclassified as public this time by ICC. 3:04 a.m., the Philippine Center on Transnational Crimes received an ICC request for the arrest and extradition of former President Duterte. At 9:20, he arrived at NAIA Terminal 3 from Hong Kong and was arrested at the Jet Bridge by DOJ, Interpol, and PNP, with his Miranda rights postponed at his request. He then was taken to Villamor, where he was housed in Maharlika Hall with his family and some legal advisors. By 11 a.m., Malacanang confirmed his arrest, while his daughter Kitty live-streamed the event. By 11:03, Duterte was flown out of the country on a chartered flight to Dubai and Rotterdam, Netherlands, as President Marcos held a press briefing on the arrest. 12 March 2025, DOJ Prosecutor General Fadulion issued a certification, bago po to, nahanap lang namin to, that President Duterte was arrested on 12 March 2025, approximately 11:44 a.m. May problema ako sa datos nito kasi bakit 1 day later? The custodial state has determined to deliver Rodrigo Roa Duterte to the ICC in accordance with Article 59.4 of the Rome Statute. And in accordance with Article 59.7, the arrested individual shall be transported to The Hague and placed in the custody of the International Criminal Court. 13 March, during an interview with Pinky Webb, Interior Secretary John Vic Remulla revealed that Duterte's arrest was a group effort involving National Security Advisor Año, Defense Secretary Teodoro, the President, with Año playing a key intelligence role in monitoring Duterte's travel. On 20 March, we had the hearing here in the Senate. The highlights of the hearing were the denial of Año of any involvement in the arrest, and John Vic, SILG Remulla denied planning and said that the group effort pertained only to chismis. PCTC said the Interpol issued a diffusion, not a red notice, and Justice Secretary Remulla claimed that ICC has jurisdiction over individuals and crimes, despite the withdrawal of the Philippines from the Rome Statute, because international humanitarian law is already customary law. Of course, we are all aware that this is not applicable, being solely limited to war crimes. In the meantime, PNP General claimed that in expediting President Duterte's turnover to the ICC, was trying to comply with the time period set forth in Article 125 of the Revised Penal Code, which applies only to warrantless arrest. A 24 Horas report revealed that Philippine authorities had planned Duterte's arrest since January, under Oplan Tugis by the PNP-CIDG, and that Duterte sought asylum in China, but this was later denied by all parties. On the same day, DILG Secretary Remulla denied involvement in the arrest, stating he was unaware of any core group behind it and only learned of the Interpol red notice on the day of Duterte's detention. So as far as the investigation goes, this is the timeline, and we're happy to share it with you. In the meantime, I'd like to read the preliminary findings following last week's investigation and public hearing. Number one, the Philippines had no legal obligation to arrest former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte and turn him over to the International Criminal Court. What was received was only a diffusion notice, not verified or approved by the Interpol Secretariat. No verification by the Interpol whether the request complied with Article 3 of their Constitution, forbidding Interpol from undertaking any intervention or activities of a political, military, religious, or racial character. Under the terms of the diffusion notice, there was no obligation on the part of the Philippines to turn over former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte to the ICC, absent any request for extradition or request for surrender. Under Article 92 of the Rome Statute, a provisional arrest is followed by a request for surrender. There is also no indication that the ICC even requested for the surrender of former president after his provisional arrest. There is likewise no indication that the ICC requested extradition after the arrest. Finally, the argument of Secretary of Justice Remulla is deeply flawed, inasmuch as international humanitarian law, customary law, cannot apply. He is accused of crimes against humanity, not war crimes. IHL refers to war crimes. Procedural administrative matters such as court processes do not become part of customary international law. IHL is international customary law, but the jurisdiction of ICC cannot be considered customary under IHL. The second finding, the Philippine government decided to assist the ICC to arrest the former president. The administration already started preparations prior to March 11. The PNP mobilized units on March 10. The National Security Advisor, Anyo, was already tracking the former president's camp before the arrest. Even before the ICC prosecutor applied for a warrant of arrest, there was already statements by key executive officials that the administration will cooperate if the ICC courses the request through Interpol to arrest the former president. Finally, the claim of the Department of Interior and Local Government Secretary John Vic Remulla that the supposed group effort was only based on rumor is incredible. This attempt to cover up what was already aired on media and what had already come to pass was an indication of a comprehensive plan to arrest the former president already being in place even before the date indicated in the ICC warrant of March 11. Finally, my third preliminary finding was that there were glaring violations of the rights of the former president. The constitutional safeguards guaranteeing liberty and due process of law were not observed. No warrant was issued by a Philippine court. The arrest did not fall within the exceptions of a warrantless arrest. Meanwhile, General Torre invoked 125 article of the revised penal code only applying to warrantless arrest. The constitutional safeguards for the right to liberty of abode were also disregarded. No court order was issued mandating that the former president be taken out of the Philippines against his will. Former President Duterte was deprived of the right to be visited or to have conferences with immediate family members under Section 2F of Republic Act 7438. General Torre admitted he did not allow Vice President Sara Z. Duterte to visit former president in Villamor Air Base, contrary to RA 7438. Former President Duterte was further denied the right to be brought to judicial authorities under Article 59 of the Rome Statute. The former president was also denied the right to apply for interim release under Article 59 of the Rome Statute or the right to apply for bail under prevailing jurisprudence on extradition. However, during the public hearing of March 20, here at the Senate, the Secretary of Justice insisted on the inapplicability of the Rome Statute. But a DOJ certification signed by Prosecutor General Richard Fadulyon stated very clearly that the DOJ made the following determinations. As competent authority of the custodial state, the arrest issued complies with Article 59 of the Rome Statute. To recall, DOJ spokesperson Clavano released a statement last March 13 saying, ang naging role namin ay competent judicial authority. Kami na ang nag-attest na lahat ng proper processes ay ginawa. Similar to Prosecutor General Fadulyon, the DOJ spokesperson showed that the article cited in the Rome Statute had been complied with. Therefore, it's apparent that the DOJ first tried to convince the public that the requirements under Article 59 of the Rome Statute were complied with, and then later on, when such stance became untenable, decided to ditch Article 59 and the Rome Statute altogether and pursued another theory, extrajudicial rendition, and invoked RA 9851, particularly Article 17. Yun lang po. So those are the three findings right now. As we speak, we are not certain if we will continue at magkakaroon pa ng ikalawang pagdinig pagkat yun nga, kinakailangan na meron tayong matitindi, magagaling at malaman ng mga testigo. So nagbubuo pa kami kung sakali at kung hindi, pag-aaralan na lamang natin ang nabunyag nung nakaraang linggo. Yes?
Ma'am, in-raise niyo po doon sa timeline ninyo yung events ng pagkaka-arrest ni former President Duterte. And lumalabas po kasi doon sa timeline ninyo, nag-iba yung tono ng administrasyon as the relationship between the two political families soured. Is that an accurate conclusion?
You'll have to derive that conclusion. I'm just offering you the timeline. Pero ipinagtapat naman ni Secretary Boying Remulla na talagang nagbago. Tinatanong ko kung kailan nagbago at bakit nagbago at ano yung pagbabago. Sabi niya lahat naman tayo habang tumatanda, natututo at nagbabago ang isipan. Yun lang ang pinaliwanag niya. Pero maliwanag na nagkaroon ng pagbabago. Kaya nga, may nagsasabi na yung Interpol bawal sa kanila mag-issue ng red notice pagkat may duda sila na political. Kaya ang pinalabas lamang nila ay yung diffusion para hindi sila sumabit kasi pinagbabawal ng sariling konstitusyon ng Interpol kapag political.
So, hindi masabi na may direct causality between the souring of relations and the change in the tone?
Paulit-ulit sinasabi ni Secretary Boying Remulla na may konteksto ang lahat. At sa palagay ko, maliwanag na may konteksto na talagang sumasabay sa alitan at pagwawalang tiwala ng dalawang panig. Itong mga pagbabago sa legal processes and our international stand, nagbago rin talaga.
Ma'am, now that you finished or that you have your preliminary report, ano po yung nakikita yung legislation or are you planning a resolution for the Senate to take a certain stand? Ano po yung dulo nitong investigation?
Well, ang dulo nito, maliwanagan tayo dito sa ICC. Yung iba nagsasabi na baka dapat ibalik na naman sa NBI at wag daw sa Philippine Center for Transnational Crime, ang ugnayan sa Interpol. So may mga recommendations in policy, yun naman talaga ang ating pakay in aid of legislation. At alam din natin na hindi pa tapos to kasi may mga warrant pa na ilalabas. Alam natin na may 5 ng narinig tayo na laman nung ikalawang warrant na mula sa ICC. Kung tama ba ang proseso, or kung hindi tama ang proseso, hindi na dapat maulit. So, importante yon. At syempre, yung mga OFW natin na nasa ibang bansa, nanganganib talaga at natatakot kung dito mismo sa sariling bansa, natatangay ang isang dating Pangulo na may edad na at may sakit. Paano pa raw sila? Kaya nais nilang malaman kung ganun na pinaglalaban natin yung mga na peperwisyo, nako-convict pa sa ibang bansa, pinaglalaban natin na makauwi, paano ba ang sitwasyon ni Presidente? Ngayon, isa pa, medyo marami pong galit at nananawagan sa akin at tinetext ako, sinong mananagot dito sa nangyari? Kasi hindi naman po pwede na nakalusot ng basta.
Ma'am, ito bang initial findings ninyo naging basis para kumalas na kayo sa alyansa o dahil sa nakalipas na 2 political rally ng alyansa ay hindi na kayo na-mention ng Pangulong Bongbong Marcos?
Kasi sinabi ko naman na, na talagang sa patuloy nilang pagbabanggit ng executive privilege, sub judice, ng national security, talagang parang mistulang nagtatago ang ating gobyerno ng mahalagang katotohanan. At hindi ko talaga matanggap, kaya't kinakailangan malaman natin at hayaan na lamang ako na malaya na magsiyasat para malaman ng taong bayan ano nga talaga ang mga pangyayari, kung may nalabag na batas at kung ano ang pagbabago or bagong legislasyon na kinakailangan. At tulad ng sinabi ko naman, mula pa nung umpisa ng halalan, mananatili akong independent. Dahil higit sa anumang political na pakinabang, dapat manaig ang soberanya ng bansa at ang tunay na katarungan para sa bawat Pilipino.
So, wala kayong pag-uusap pa rin ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos din?
Oo, wala. Matagal na yun. Oo.
So, sa inyo, minasama ng Pangulo yung pagkandak niyo pa ng hearing tungkol sa nangyaring pag-aayos?
Parang ganun ang lumalabas na hindi ko naman maintindihan. Pagkat para sa akin, masyadong naging emosyonal, galit at taranta ang taong bayan. At nakita naman natin, naglabasan sa kalsada, nag-iiyakan, nagpoprotesta. Kaya imbis na lumala pa itong sitwasyon na to, minarapat ko na alamin kung ano talaga ang nangyayari para kumalma tayong lahat at maanalisa kung ano talaga ang nangyari. Kaya lang, eto nga, hindi ko naman intensyon na anti-administration yung hearing. As a matter of fact, kung maaalala ninyo, halos lahat ng testigo galing gobyerno. Hindi ko naman alam yung mga sagot nila. Kaya nga ako nagtatanong kasi hindi ko alam yung sagot. Malay ko ba kung anong sasagutin nila? Nung hindi sila magkasundo at hindi tumutugma yung mga sagot nila, hindi maganda yung itsura ng pamahalaan, nagalit yata sa akin na nabunyag yon sa aking hearing.
Sino nagalit?
Po.
So, ma'am na parang nasira ang relasyon niyo ng Presidente because of...
Hindi, matagal na kami hindi masyado nag-uusap, maraming humaharang, matagal na, oo. Nakikita ko lang pag public events, oo. At saka mabilis lang yon, maraming tao, ganun.
Nasabi niyo kaya ka nagkandak ng hearing kasi nga lumalalim na yung divisiveness sa
Yes.
pero dun sa naging result ng inyong hearing, sa tingin niyo mas lumalim pa instead na ma-address?
Lumalim ang emosyon in the sense na nakita nila na maraming pagkakamali, at least yung 3 na binanggit ko, na paulit-ulit na rin lumalabas sa social media. Kung tutuusin, very contrapuntal na siya, very anticlimactic na siya. Kasi paulit-ulit na yung lumalabas pati sa mainstream. Lumalalim ang ating kaalaman at mas lalo tayong nagagalit kasi labis-labis na ang dagok sa ating soberanya. At nababalitaan natin, labas-masok ang Amerika. Kahit hindi EDCA sites, ang katutak pa daw na Typhoon missiles ang pinapasok. Labas-masok din ang China sa ating karagatan at sa West Philippine Sea. Ngayon, dinadampot na lamang ang mamamayang Pilipino at dinadala sa The Hague. May natitira pa ba sa bansang Pilipinas? Nakakaawa naman tayo kung ganyan. So, kung lumala, sa palagay ko, lumalim ang pag-uunawa ng taong bayan. I think yun ang kontribusyon. Kasi, maski pro Duterte, pro Marcos, hindi na naging partisan, parang lahat medyo nagkaliwanag ng kaunti kahit papano.
Sino yung sinasabi niyo parang nagalit yata sa inyo nung meeting? Is it President Marcos?
Yes.
And you confirm this by, or you just feel it because you're his sister?
Hindi kasi nung umpisa, sabi nila, hindi na daw makikilahok yung gobyerno. Pagkatapos noon, ang dami-dami ng testigo. Sabi ko, okay na. Ang dami-dami, nagpapadagdag pa nga sila ng pangalan, nagpadagdag pa nga sila ng upuan, kinapos pa nga tayo ng pagkain. Nandain nila 3 kwarto tayo, di ba? Tapos, akala ko, prepared na prepared. Sabi ko, ayos to. Nagulat naman ako nung nagalit na nga kasi nga siguro hindi nagkakasundo, yung mga sagot, hindi tumutugma. Hindi ko nakasalanan yun. Malay ko ba kung anong isasagot nila? Ngayon, paano nagalit? Kasi naalanganin na ako, hindi ako napunta. Gusto ko pa naman, over-prepared na nga ako pumunta doon sa Tacloban rally. Hindi ako pumunta. Tapos, mabuti na lang pala hindi ako pumunta at hindi na ako binanggit. Kaya ako nalaman.
Sa Cavite and Laguna ka lang man hindi binanggit. Sa Tacloban ma'am nabanggit pa.
Nabanggit pa. Ganun. Mali. O di...
So ma'am, a-attend po pala sa
Tacloban?
nabanggit pa po.
Ay, ganun. Hindi ko na maalala. Sa totoo lang, hindi ko masyadong tinututukan yung kampanya. Nandito ako sa investigasyon. Parang naisang tabi na, nakatutok talaga ako dito para malaman kung ano pa.
Ma'am, yung hindi pagbanggit ng Pangulo sa inyo last campaigns Cavite Laguna, you take it as mukhang masama loob sa inyo?
Yeah, okay lang. Walang problema. Kasi nga sabi ko, nakatutok naman ako dito. Hindi naman na eleksyon, kampanya, politika ang pinaka-importante. Nangingibabaw sa akin itong mga dagok sa ating kalayaan, sa ating soberanya. Hindi ko kaya to Talagang ipaglalaban ko yan Yung pag hindi yung hindi binanggit, pagkatapos sabi 11 na lamang ang kanilang kandidato, wag na tayo magpahirapan ng katawan. Sabi ko, kakalas na muna ako kung nahihirapan kayo. Mas madali naman ganun, okay lang sa akin, walang problema.
May offer bang PDP laban ma'am para i-adapt kayo?
Ang sabi may nag-aampon, hindi ko masyadong pinapansin kinakarir namin to Naduling-duling na nga kami kagabi
Just in case open kayo ma'am, kung sakaling i-adapt kayo ng PDP laban.
Alam niyo maganda naman yung libre, di ba? Yung malaya. So, mulat sa poll, sinabi ko, independent ako. Pero yun nga, doon sa Lawag, syempre, yung anak ko nagmamaktol. Bakit hindi ako pupunta? Di pumunta ako, ganun. Tapos may mga kaibigan, pumupunta. Noon pa naman hindi naman ako present sa lahat ng lugar. Oo. Sa Carmen Davao, absent ako doon. Ayun. Tsaka sa Dumaguete yata, ewan ko, saan ko ba hindi masyadong pinuntahan.
Pero wala na ikipag-usap right now sa inyo para mag-offer na.
Wala naman. Siguro, nabunutan rin sila ng tinik na sabi ko, kakalas na lang ako para simple at klaro. Parang maliwanag na maliwanag.
Magbalik ko lang po kay former President Duterte. Is it your conclusion as chairperson of the Foreign Relations Committee that what happened was extraordinary rendition?
Hindi pa tayo maabot doon. Yung binasa ko 3 pa lang, preliminary finding pa lang to, na talagang walang obligasyon ang Pilipinas na i-aresto si dating Pangulo, na yung ating pamahalaan ang determinado na lumahok doon sa pag-aresto ni Presidente Duterte at ikatlo na nalabag ang ilang karapatan ni Presidente Duterte sa ilalim ng Saligang Batas ng Pilipinas.
Ma'am, hindi totoong biglaan, pinagplanuhan siya. Yun ang inyong conclusion, pinagplanuhan.
At tinitignan pa namin yung dates kung kailan nag-umpisa kasi walang kaliwanagan. At paiba-iba nga yung version. May lumabas ka na nagulat din ako yung March 12 lang, yung DOJ, kung bakit ganun. Tapos na ang lahat, tsaka lang pala natanggap ng DOJ.
Ma'am, kasi yun yung claim ni Vice President Sara na it was an extraordinary rendition. So, ma'am, ano yung nakikita yung grounds for it to be considered as extraordinary?
Wala pa kami dun eh. Inaalam pa lang natin kasi nga preliminary pa lang to. Tinitignan ko pa lang dahil ang taas pala ng interest di ko akalain na ganun kadaming manunood.
Tanong ko lang po, ayaw niyo bang manalo? Bakit niyo makakala sa administration at this point?
Oo nga, sabi nga suicide bomber nga daw ako eh.
Palagi nilang pinagmamalaki yung kanilang machinery. So why do this now?
Because it's more important to me. May bagay na mas mahalaga sa politika. May bagay na mas mahalaga kaysa sa kampanya at panalo. Anong ibig sabihin ng senador na walang bansa? May kahulugan ba yun?
Pero hindi yung indication na mas matimbang ang mga Duterte kaysa Marcos.
Palagay ko, lampas-lampas na to sa Duterte at Marcos. Ang pinag-uusapan na dito, yung soberanya ng ating bansa. Mabigat na to eh. Ibang usapan na to. Kung ano-ano nang dagok ang nangyayari. Eto nga, yung mga EDCA sites, yung mga Typhoon missiles, yung sangkatutak na banggaan, kuno, dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Ano lang matitira sa atin? Pati yung mamayan, dinadampot na lamang at naging probinsya na tayo ng dahig.
Ma'am, sabi ni Senate President Escudero, hindi daw na-compromise yung sovereignty ng bansa dun sa pag-arrest at pag-surrender kay Digong sa ICC. Kasi sabi niya, under existing laws, yung daw mga akusado ng crimes against humanity ay pwede talaga ireklamo sa ICC. And then, Pilipino at hindi dayuhan yung nag-file ng kaso sa ICC. And then, wala pa rin daw kaso dito si Duterte. So, walang local court ang naagawan ng jurisdiction dun sa pag-surrender kay Duterte.
Wala rito si Senate President Cheese, hindi ako makikipagdebate na wala siya.
Ba't naninindigan kayo na na-compromise yung sovereignty?
Yes, very clearly.
Sorry, sabi nyo, may mas mahalaga kaysa sa kampanya at panalo. So you're willing na matalo dahil sa pakikipaglaban nyo dito sa ICC arresting Pangulo?
Hindi naman ako matatalo. May kandidato bang matatalo? Siyempre, lahat ng kandidato naniniwalang mananalo. Mas maraming Pilipinong nakikinig sa katotohanan kaysa sa kabulastugan. Kaya naninindigan ako na kinakailangan ipaglaban at tayuan. Ang mali ay mali, ang tama ay tama, ang batas ay dapat mangibabaw sa lahat.
But you admit, ma'am, or do you feel na naapektuhan yung kandidatura nyo dahil sa
Baliktad yata. Ramdam ko baliktad.
Ano pong ramdam nyo?
Kasi maraming tao na hindi naman masasabing pro-Duterte, hindi naman sasabihin na anti-Marcos, na nagalit sa pangyayari.
And you feel that will help your candidacy, ma'am?
Hindi ako nag-imbestiga para mangampanya, para sumikat. Labis-labis na nga yung sikat namin. Yung apelyido ko nakakasindak eh.
So, ma'am, you will not make it part of your campaign messaging or magiging campaign issue niyo po itong arrest?
Hindi naman ako nag-imbestiga para magpasikat or ma-endorso or maging bahagi ng ibang partido. Nag-imbestiga ako para malaman kung ano talaga ang nangyari at kung talagang nasunod ang batas ng Pilipinas, kung talagang kaya natin tayuan ang ating soberanya at kalayaan.
So, may nakikita na po ba kayo so far kung sino yung dapat managot and anong violation?
Yun nga, ang tinatanong ng lahat, sino daw kakasuhan. At yun pa ang inaalam natin. Kaya nga, maraming nagsasabi, bitin, dapat magka-second hearing. Sabi ko, basta makaproduce tayo ng testigo. Kasi kung hindi naman malaman at makatotohanan, ano naman uusapan natin? Maraming lihim. Ang maliwanag, malabo. Yun talaga, napakaliwanag sa lahat na ito. Maraming kinukuble, maraming pinagtatakpan, maraming hindi totoo. At marami tayong dapat siyasatin.
But sa ganong level, ma'am, ng usapin, paano po yun? Cabinet Secretary level po ba yung dapat managot? Ano po yun?
Hindi ko alam. Tulad ninyo, alam ko lang ang rineport ko at sa ngayon, hindi pa maliwanag talaga. Ang daming loose ends, ang daming butas, ang daming malabo.
Ano pa pong lalaman ng second hearing po? If you get witnesses, then what will...
Well, unang-una, magkaliwanagan dun sa sinasabi na international law, hindi naman pangkaraniwang practice yan, hindi naman araw-araw na yan ang pinapractice ng abogado, kinakailangan siguro yung ex-justice, yung mga framers ng konstitusyon, ang dating mga mambabatas, hindi ko alam, or else yung mga expert din sa international law, pagkatapos nun yung iba pa. Maraming nagsusulat di ba? Pero pag nabasa mo yung pahayagan, parang hindi naman sila neutral, parang lahat may panig, iniiwasan natin yon hanggat kaya. Pagkatapos noon, yun nga, yung katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, yung mga OFW, gusto malaman kung talagang maipagtatanggol ba natin sila. Eto na nga, dito sa Pilipinas, paano pa daw sila nagkakayod at naghahanap buhay sa ibang bansa, kayang-kaya silang kunin. At saka yung mga nakakulong, makakauwi pa daw sila. Paano ba? Tapos, yun nga, sino mananagot? Maraming tanong pa rin talaga.
Ma'am, nung na-elect si Bongbong as president, sabi niyo, ito yung chance to redeem yung pangalan ng mga Marcos. Considering dito sa issue sa pagka-aresto kay dating Pangulo, mariredeem pa ba? Or sa tingin niyo nalagay sa
Well, nanghihinayang ako, hindi lamang para sa pamilya namin, kundi para sa ating kasaysayan, no? Kasi nagumpisa sa amin nung EDSA, pagkatapos noon, 'di ba, nakulong din si Presidente Erap, si Presidente GMA, nahinto lang kay Presidente Duterte. Eto na naman, naaresto na naman. Umpisa na naman ba natin itong siklo ng paghihiganti, ng balikan, kapag wala ka na sa kapangyarihan, babanatan. Parang ako'y naaawa sa Pilipinas. Kung ganito na lang tayo, paano pa tayo uunlad?
But you're still hoping na matapos ni Bongbong Marcos yung kanyang term ng maayos.
Siyempre, oo. Pero ang dami ng problema talaga.
Pero ma'am, yung banatan na sinasabi niyo, di ba nagsimula yung banat galing sa dating presidente kasi started yung nasa timeline din yun na sinimulan niyang banatan si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos.
Tignan natin ang maigi kasi naaalala ko, andito ba yung kodigo? Meron rin kasi nag-umpisa yung kay VP Sara. Kasi nag-umpisa yung kay VP Sara noong July 2023. Hindi ako abogado ni VP ha, pero tinitignan ko lang yung date, nandyan sa timeline. Can we please go to 5 July 2023? Ayun. Parang nag-umpisa, doon nag-umpisa sa July, nung humarap sa Kongreso. At yung confidential fund na dinidikdik, uminit ng September, October, ayun. At parang tulad ng sino mang ama, nagalit na siguro si Presidente Duterte. At nung 28 January 2024, ayun na. Nagwawala na siya sa Davao. Matignan ninyo yung mga date na, kaya nga ako naglagay ng timeline, sabi nga nila, dapat yung timeline, yung mga legal lang. Pero hindi natin maiiwasan na may kinalaman to sa mga pangyayari dito sa Pilipinas. Yung ating timeline ang magsasabi kung sino talaga ang nauna. Tulungan na lang ninyo ako na dagdagan pa to, i-fill in the blanks at buuhin. Yes.
Do you fear na yung nangyari kay dating Pangulong Duterte, posibleng mangyari din sa pamilya nyo na ma-ICC din kayo once you're not in power anymore? Kasi nangyari sa dating presidente.
Yun na nga ang sinasabi ko na nakakahiya itong nangyari. Apakalungkot natin bilang Pilipino para tayong failed state. Hindi naman siguro, andyan pa rin ang ating mga husgado, magagaling ang ating huwes at abogado. Bakit naman tayo nauwi sa ganito? At tulad ng sinabi mo, kung nangyari minsan, pwedeng maulit.
So you fear, you worry na baka mangyari din sa inyo, ma'am? At hindi na Pangulo yung kapatid niyo?
I think it's speculative. Fear is hard to express at this point.
Ma'am, si JPE may warning doon sa mga